What's going on, guys? Master Coach and Education Director Aaron Gaia here with Marcus Martinez, and we have the incredible pleasure of having the stick mobility guys hop on our LivingFit show and talk a little bit about stick mobility and a lot of bit about fitness. So Dennis Dunphy has been in the game for a long time, training tons of athletes around the world. Neal Valera as well has been in the game for a long time, training tons of athletes around the world. And we get the great pleasure of chatting with them about fitness and also the thing that they are kind of now renowned for around the world, which is stick mobility. So without further ado, Dennis and Neal, what brought about this whole stick mobility thing?
Go ahead.
Go for it, man.
Yeah. That's a smooth start. We had the pleasure of working with a chiropractor over in Santa Cruz, California, who used to do stick yoga with rattan sticks. And so when we went through his education, we really felt the value in understanding how we could use a stick to really help create stability and utilize leverage. It was just an amazing experience. But we also saw that there was some other elements, especially strength training, that just weren't being tapped into. And for us, it's in order to be mobile, you got to have strength in your movements. So we set aside and said, okay, let's create a system where we're utilizing that need to understand neuromuscular control in and out of your movements. And that's where stick mobility was born.
Nice. And so was it both of you, or I know you have more people on your team, or did it start with just one of you, or how did that, did it start with the team?
Yeah, well, originally started with three of us,
Yeah.
And then it progressed, and then now it's just two of us. But then we've got four other partners behind the scenes, that take care of all the business stuff, the website, handling the product, manufacturing, all that. But on the education side, creating content, that's Dennis and I.
Yeah.
So from the product itself, I mean, you had such an incredible experience through with that yoga teacher. What was the limitation in that stick that prompted you to create something like an upgraded, better version of it?
Yeah, the rattan is nice, but very inconsistent in diameters. So even from one stick to the other, it just greatly varies. It's strong, but not that strong. So, I mean, if you wanted to hang on a stick, and let's say you were 250 pounds, you're probably not going to succeed on using a rattan stick for that. So then we ended up going into, and they warp really easily. And so then we said, okay, let's just move on to regular PVC pipe. But then we were also finding out that what you buy at a hardware store is actually really thin. Yeah. It is strong, but it's not designed for what we were going to use it for. Yeah. And ultimately, if you overflex it at some point as it weakens, it's going to just shatter out from underneath you. Yeah. So we had Neal has some clients who are in the aeronautics industry. And so they came forward and said, hey, we can produce a stick that's going to be stronger, still give you the flexibility. And so he said, go for it. And so they created some prototypes for us. And then once they were created, we played around with them for a while. And then we said, okay, this is the one we like. This meets the requirements that we needed. It needs to be strong, because people have to have that mental safety net that this stick is going to be safe for them to use, especially when we do our monkey hanging series.
Yeah. And then the bowing drills, we started off with just kind of wrapping them with tennis grip. And that, I mean, you had to do that, everyone by hand. It took forever. So eventually it evolved into what you see now, which is a little bit more like a golf grip. So we can just slap those things on. And then there's little bumps on there for a little tactile feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously you guys spared nothing, like really examining each piece and every part, and it has a purpose. I was wondering, just when you guys are talking, is there any temperature issues at all? Because I know there is with PVC. Like if it gets cold, man, you barely hit that thing, it's going to shatter. So we always advise people, especially
for people taking the education, that's one of the very first things we go through is safety protocols. Nothing is indestructible. And if we let them know that, look, there is an intention and a purpose of use for this, use it with the intention that it's used for, and these sticks are going to last you a long, long time. Yeah. But yeah, temperature wise, still same thing. If you live in Phoenix and it's July and it's 110 degrees outside and you leave it in your car for 6 hours and you wonder why the thing is all warped, I don't know, but if you live yeah, right. And we have had a couple coaches that have done that. They're like, but they admit it. They're like, I was an idiot. I left it out in the car. It warped. But at the same time, if you live in North Dakota, same thing. If you leave it in your car and it's minus 20 degrees outside and you decide to come in and give it a good flex, well, science is science, right? So you still got to, we just tell people, look, make sure this stick is about room temperature. It's probably going to be the best area for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of any room temperature, even the people that like it a little colder or like a little warmer, it's going to be, that's totally fine. Yeah. And that's obviously that's been my experience with them. Even, back in the day with Innovative Results, it would get cold, like Southern California cold, which isn't cold, but it would get colder, but it's still, it's 55 degrees. So it's fine, Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so what's up?
I was going to say, unless it's like below freezing, you'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it's a material that is, obviously has a lot more resilience than like PVC. Because my experience, with PVC doing construction and things like that, it's like, you gotta be careful when it gets super cold. If you're outside, roughing in something or putting some piping in, it's like that thing will snap so easy.
So in terms of the stick itself, obviously we understand like having that give and what makes that so powerful, but what was the purpose of having that where you were able to still hang on, it was sturdy enough, but being able to flex? Like, why not just use a pole? Why not just use a stick for to do the same movements?
So if we're doing some leverage techniques, let's just say, our slap shot where the stick goes behind your back and you're doing a little thoracic rotation towards the ground. Now, if that stick is really stiff and it doesn't mold along your body, you'll kind of get stopped, and it'll hurt. So with the flex, it allows it to kind of mold to your body and help you get into a little bit bigger range of motion. And then now you're in that range of motion, you can start to pull and push along the stick to create strength while you're there. And then as far as, go for it. And then the bowing, what we're able to do is just put energy into the kinetic chain, depending on, what position you're in, whether we push into the stick or pull against it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, I was going to say, I personally found it very helpful for pole vaulting. So I was able to jump over. And as I was making that joke, you were actually bringing a point. So I'm like, God, ruin his point.
Sorry, man.
We all lost. No.
So I'd like, our audience to hear a little bit about the background of each of you. So Dennis, how did you get into fitness, just generally speaking? And then, obviously now stick mobility is a big part of your life, but you still are an incredible coach for lots of people and in different parts of the populace. So yeah, I would be interested to hear a little bit more about that.
I grew up always with sports and athletics all the time. So my dad was very much never sitting idle. Whether it was everything from hockey's my first passion. But baseball, basketball is even as short as I am. I played basketball for a little bit.
You can't tell this guy, but he's
yeah, I'm 5'3", just FYI. So so Muggsy Bogues, yeah, I give him credit for being in the NBA for as long as he was, right? My forehead took way too many elbows on the way. I mean, it's incredible. But gymnastics, but my dad was always more just all about competition and developing skills. So even with chess and understanding strategies, so chess, tennis, he was always into things like that. So I was always active. And then when I was 25, a friend of mine was a fitness director at 24 Hour Fitness. And he's like, hey, I need trainers. He's like, you just do this normally. He's like, why don't you make a living at it? And it's not something I had thought about. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Went into it and then realized box gym was not my thing. Did not like that type of business structure. So I did have, fortunately, I was fortunate enough to have an acquaintance who knew someone that owned a small studio. He brought me on and pretty much mentored me for almost 4 years. Really started to give me the ins and outs of the industry. Scotty Wilson was someone I worked with, old school bodybuilder back from the Arnold days. So it was great to get this information, especially new to the industry. So I didn't have a lot of unlearning to do. I was just getting filled with a lot of great information. But then as I got older, injuries started to take place. My meatheads type of workouts that I really grew up loving, I just started realizing probably going to have to make some type of alterations in order for me to keep really thinking about the paradigm shift went from looking physique wise, aesthetics to, okay, I need to move well first and foremost.
Yeah.
And so then when Neal took me rock climbing for the first time, that's when I really understood the importance of your ability to move and produce force in those end ranges. Cause man, I thought I had good hips until I got onto the wall and I was like, holy shit. I cramped up, fell off the wall. And I'm like, what was that? He's like, that's your hips,
man.
That's your hips that need a lot of work. And I was like, oh my God. So, and really to see that, and for me personally experiencing that, but then also being able to have that same understanding association with clients going through the same struggles and saying, look, I've been there. I know what it feels like. It's not something that's foreign to me. So that's been a great, great shift in the way I've been training from 22 years ago to today. It's just night and day difference.
Just shows the value of finding good mentors, especially early on, and think about how many people don't get that. And they just kind of fly blind for so many years. So it's awesome to see how well it helped you having those mentors so early.
Yeah, exactly. So Neal, what about you? I know obviously avid climber, and as Dennis gave a little nod to that. But is that where it all started, or did it start somewhere else and then lead to there? Or?
Well, so just like Dennis, I grew up, playing all these sports, and then I ended up playing golf in college. So along the way, I was always training and trying to figure out the best ways, to get better at whatever sport I was doing. And I started off reading Muscle and Fitness, like, okay, I'm going to lift weights. So in high school, you start lifting weights. You do the, 3 sets of 10 for flat bench, 3 sets of 10 for incline bench, decline bench, flies. You do all that. And I didn't really have a background in strength training besides, doing push-ups in school and PE and all that stuff and martial arts. So it worked, right? You get stronger. But at some point, like it stops working. So I had to go dive deeper. And then one of my buddies introduced me to kettlebells. So this is probably like 2002. And I was in college. So then I kind of went into this deep dive into, Dragon Door, RKC, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So then I ended up getting a certification in 2007 through RKC. And then I finished playing college golf. I thought I was going to be a pro golfer, but I'm not. So that didn't happen. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to sit behind a desk. So I'm going to go, do what I love. And, I like to train myself. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can pass this along to other people and train athletes. I want to train athletes. So I went down the kettlebell road, and then I got a basic certification from NASM. And then I started working at a box gym. So that was my first experience of training. And just like Dennis, I was a year in. I'm like, you know what? This isn't my thing. I'm going to go out on my own. So then I met Dennis at a studio. From there, he was a mentor for me, on the business end of things. And we kind of had the same philosophies when it came to training. So that meshed really well. And we just take courses all the time, man, and just tons of continuing education. I thought I wanted to train athletes, and I do. I train a lot of golfers, but I ended up working with a lot of people that were in pain, that just wanted to get their movement back and just wanted to do the activities that they wanted to do. And I found a lot of joy in helping those people get back there through better movement and just getting stronger, And that's kind of how it came to be with Stick Mobility.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I feel like that's so many people, right? That get in, they think they want to do this, but then as they're on their journey, they realize like, oh man, I'm really good at helping these people, and I enjoy this even more than the thing that I thought I would end up ultimately doing or was trying to do. It's just really cool how that journey. But the only way to do it is to start taking steps in the journey, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Take steps down the pathway, and then it leads you maybe to somewhere else.
Yep.
Well, and hence stick mobilities, right? So that's probably a big piece in that, right? It's like helping people get out of pain, move better, and then you find this tool because you're lifelong learners, right? And going after learning from other people, and oh man, this works. Okay, how can we make this better? And boom, now we've got this incredible tool to help improve people's strength, improve people's proprioception, improve people's flexibility, mobility, right? Pretty awesome.
God, no. I mean, it's one of my favorite tools now. And I mean, just from discovering it through Innovative Results and then being able to play with it, I think, what you guys have done with it has been so incredible. So it's so cool to see how much other education you're putting into it. So you're not just putting out a product, you also have a whole education behind it. So what kind of how did that kind of come to be through your own training, and what kind of made you decide, okay, let's not just get this tool that can help a lot of people. How can we show them all how to use this and get the most from it?
It was actually Chip Morton. When we first started and we hit social media, our objective actually was just to really create more local business just for in our own private practices. Run some group classes. We didn't have a lot of high expectations. We just said, let's put it out there. But then all of a sudden, just instantaneously, we started getting attention from around the world, and we're like, okay, well, maybe this has some legs to it, right? Maybe it's a little bit more than we think. But Chip Morton, who was with the Cincinnati Bengals at the time, just literally reaches out about 6 months after we hit social media, and we're like, oh. So he said, hey, I love what you guys do. We met with him when he was in town, when they were in town playing the Niners. We spent about 3 hours with him and his staff, and he's all like, this is fantastic. He's like, what's your education platform? What do you have? And we said, we don't have anything. We just run classes and work with our clients with it. He's all like, well, create one. He's like, create a certification, bring that education. So I said, okay. He goes, I want first crack though. He goes, as soon as you get it, I want to be the first one. And that's what we did. So we sat down, and then we spent the next 6 months hashing out, systemizing everything, what the phases are, how we're going to teach this. And then when we were done, he brought us out to Cincinnati, and we taught his whole staff, and that's where it started. And then when we came back, we started saying, okay, well, let's start creating public courses for coaches and even clients. We've had doctors or other trainers that have sent their clients, general users who just like what we do. They've come to, we've scaled the education so that your high-end clinician understands the value of it, but not out of the reach of just somebody who's just a fitness or health enthusiast. So, that way both ends of the spectrum can absorb the same information.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have done such a great job and this is what we strive to do too, is like, can I immediately put this into my practice? Like I go take even a snippet of one of your courses, right? But the entire course is like, I can immediately apply this, and something that we try to do. So, but his courses tend to be broken down more around technique, because the kettlebell is highly technically driven, right? If you are doing it wrong, chances are you're probably going to hurt yourself or get frustrated and quit, right? Not very many early successes if you're doing it wrong. But then the ropes kind of teach themselves. So it's less technical and more really around programming and around the energy system development or metabolic. So what would you say the stick mobility courses what are those phases? What does that look like?
So we've got 3 phases. We've got joint mobility, we've got strength training, and then we have active stretching. So, we always tell people, look, you can use the entire system as a standalone system, or you can just take little pieces. So if you take one thing this weekend and use it and implement it into your system, that's great. You don't have to use everything. So depending on where you're at and what you need, you can apply, whether it's the strength training portion, or you want to use the active stretching for your dynamic warm up or for your recovery. Or, you have someone that has joint mobility issues. Let's focus more on this joint mobility.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, you can either take part of it and apply it immediately, or use the whole system and just have a much better, more robust way of approaching the tool.
What do you see as a whole, or as a majority? Who do you see coming through your courses? Are they more clinicians, more trainers, or are they a lot? I mean, a lot of just enthusiasts that are trying to move better.
I'd say it's more personal trainers. I'd say we get 2 or 3 clinicians every course, but mostly personal trainers and strength coaches.
And then every once in a while you'll get an end user, or somebody who's just an enthusiast that's into it so much that he or she is like, okay, I'm gonna learn this thing. Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So what have been some of your issues during this COVID time, where obviously the in-persons are just not happening, or not happening as frequently? Maybe now we're starting to see some in-person stuff. We aren't doing in-person yet, right? We're still doing live stream type stuff. But how have you guys adapted and adjusted stick mobility specifically, but even training because of the COVID stuff?
Well, we took our level 1 and put it all onto an online platform. So Study at Home guide. And so that we made sure we did that. We also, on our Instagram, what we did, and for our YouTube, is we said, okay, we want to give content out to people who are stuck at home and who may be limited or feel limited in their options. So we said, okay, let's give 3 workouts a week. And then once those are done on Instagram Live, then we transfer those over to our YouTube channels. So like right now, I think we have about 150 free workouts. I mean, that's a lot of workouts. So, and we have different coaches teaching them. So you're getting a little bit of different nuances in how to use them, depending on who the coach is that's teaching it. So we went that route also. And we still have some other programs that we're going to record. Our level 2, we're going to record that and move that to an online platform, also Study at Home version. And we're also going to do a 2 to 3 hour basics, that fundamental. So we're going to refilm all that, update that. The original ones are a little outdated. So we're going to come up with that again. So it's a little bit more up to date, and a little better production quality.
So there's so much out there in the mobility world. Everything kind of just gets categorized as mobility. What is without maybe dropping names or too much ish talking? What would you say is one of your biggest pet peeves in the mobility training world that you see out now?
The lack of.
I think it's just all the fighting, man. Like, oh, this is the best. Mine's the best. I don't know. There's just too much. There's not enough of a community, I guess. Like, yeah, people are like, I don't know. There's way too much shit talking.
I think that
like, don't do that. It's stupid. Don't even try it. My program's the best.
Yeah. But for us with mobility wise, is like, we feel that everyone that does our education or experiences what they get, they're like, wow, there's a lot of, this is hard. And we're like, yeah, mobility work should be hard. You're trying to get better at something that you're limited in. If it's easy, then you got to kind of question, is it effective? Yeah. Right. So for us, if you are doing mobility work and at the end you're like, that was no big deal, well, then maybe you need to move on to something else. So for us, it's active stretching. We're not passive stretching. I mean, we're always engaging lines, tissues, muscles. And so people are always surprised, even when they're doing just our quote unquote stretches. They're like, this is hard.
Yeah.
So that's for us, when we see other people doing mobility work and it's just all wishy-washy, and so to speak, you're just like, are you really bringing the value that you say that you're bringing? Yeah. And so that's just one of the things that we kind of look at. We go, it is what it is,
Yeah. Yeah. Adaptations don't come by relaxing and not doing anything. Right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the brain's got to have better input. Yeah. You've got to earn it. Right. Yeah. So you're just sitting in a position for 2 minutes isn't going to give it to you. You know,
Yeah.
you got to be doing something there.
It'd be cool if it would.
It'd be great if it did, right?
There probably wouldn't be this thing called stick mobility if that was all.
You're right. Yeah, no, if that was the case, we wouldn't be here right now. Exactly. That's the thing.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. And I totally agree too with the scarcity mindset, right? Where it's like, in order for me to win, you have to lose. Like, don't do his or hers or theirs. It's stupid. Mine's the best. It's like, oh my gosh. Can we just understand that this whole business thing, this whole fitness thing is not a zero-sum game. Like, you can learn a lot from them and then learn a lot from them and then learn a lot from these people over here. And you can put that all together and man, you got so much more than if you were to, it's this way or the highway, right?
Yeah, I mean, Dennis and I, we're constantly learning, and sometimes we'll take a course and go, you know what, that's a better way to do it. Let's start implementing that into our system. So we've kind of blended everything we've learned, and if something isn't useful anymore, we're like, all right, let's just get rid of this, take this out of the program and put this in instead.
And personalities do a lot too. I mean, 5 people can be teaching the exact same thing, but they're going to hit different people because of who they are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Looks wise, personality wise, delivery wise, it just is different. So for people to say that's horrible, don't listen. Whatever you buy into mindset wise is probably going to be best for you.
Yeah.
So that's our thing is if it makes you get the results and it helps you improve, then don't avoid it.
Yeah. If it helps you do it, then that means you'll do it, which means you'll get the results.
Yeah.
Results, right? That's just, we sit there and we see all this just bashing and we're all like, well, that person seems to be doing pretty good. So
yeah,
it is what it is, right?
Because after a course, we'll always recommend, hey, go take this course, go take a course from, go take FRC, go take, Gray Institute, do this. There's so much value in that.
Yeah.
I think, because it was interesting. Anthony Robbins years ago, I found out Anthony Robbins, it doesn't just, when you go to his conferences or whatever, he's also touting other motivational speakers because he's like, there's strength in numbers. And if we're all in this mission to help people improve themselves, then I'm not the only person that can do that.
Yeah.
And for us, we make all of us better by promoting and saying, look, if you don't like the way I do things, then go see this person because that person can help you out more than I can then. And that's really, if we're in the health and fitness industry, we're in it to help people out. Well, then if I can't get the job done, then maybe I direct you over here and that person gets the results that you wanted.
100%. Yeah.
I love what you said, Neal, about how when you learn something, you say, okay, is this something that's going to help us? Can we teach it in a different way? I think so many people stick to the way they do things. That's the only way they know how. But learning something new is either going to fortify what you do or make you question it and try to do something new, which is what I think it's a huge testament to what you guys have been able to put out and why it's so valuable and continues to be so valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you guys have tons of value in your videos.
Jeez, even your Instagram.
It's like Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. Well, so obviously we could talk all day, and I'm sure we will have you on again. I'm sure we'll continue the conversation, but it has been my great pleasure, and maybe this guy's, I don't know. It has been my great pleasure and an honor to have both of you on our show talking about not only stick mobility, but the whole fitness industry. One question that we ask of every single person that we have on our show is, what is LivingFit to you? And obviously not LivingFit, the brand or the company, but just what is this idea that is LivingFit or value or whatever that is LivingFit? And so I'd love to hear both of you guys give your rendition of LivingFit.
I mean, I think for me right now, where I'm at, I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, and it's basically just kind of transferring my passions of being active and sharing it with them. So we'll take, me and my wife, we'll take the kids hiking. We'll take them out by the rocks. My daughter will start climbing different rocks. We'll just expose them to everything, man. And just being active, getting outside, and playing. So that's it for me right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the same. I mean, for me, Living Fit is doing what makes you, takes you, and puts you in a good place, especially mentally. I think we've seen the shift, or we're starting to see that shift from understanding it's not just the physical realm, but your mental health is really, really crucial. And so Living Fit is combining those two together so that physically, whatever you're doing really helps improve your mental state of mind. And just like Neal said, for the vast majority of people, they want to be able to just play with their kids. They want to be able to play with their grandkids. They don't want to be confined to a wheelchair because they're unable to move. They don't want to be restricted. And so for me, that's Living Fit. Being able to do it because you can.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you.
Hopping on the show and sharing some great information and value.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
appreciate it, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.